Good afternoon, everyone. We're ready to get started. It's 12 o'clock. Welcome to the 2023 Ryan White HIV/AIDS Program Clinical Conference. I'm so glad to have us all here in person. I can't believe how many people agreed to come, so very, very exciting. This is the second time we've met in person since the pandemic. So thank you for being here. This really is meant to be a meeting where you're able to network with each other and with the faculty, and having it in person, I think will accomplish those aims. So thank you for being here. Next slide. So I am pleased to be here. I'm Laura Cheever. I'm the Associate Administrator of the HIV/AIDS Bureau at the Health Resources and Services Administration. We administer the Ryan White HIV/AIDS program. And I have two co-chairs, Roger Bedimo here, who will, from UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas. He was a co-chair last year as well, but he contracted COVID and so did not join us in person for that meeting. So we're so excited to have him back for a rerun, and we're hoping that it's going to go better this time for him. And our third co-chair, perennial co-chair, so to speak, is Michael Sag from UAB. So very excited that he could be here as well this year. Next slide. This is the 23rd clinical conference, and it really is meant to be an advanced conference for practitioners of Ryan White funded clinics and programs who have experience in HIV medicine. We did have a 101 session recorded that you could have watched in advance, or you can watch this evening if you haven't seen it yet and you think you need that. But it's really meant to be a state-of-the-art lecture, a lot of case-based discussions and interactive small group breakouts, which I really enjoy because it allows people to sort of share their experience of this may be the state-of-the-art, but this is what we can actually afford to do or have technology to do in our clinic, and we can have those kind of discussions. And really exciting, I am very concerned about that next generation of Ryan White providers. So we have HIV pathways that are funded now, and we have several pathway fellows here as well as many of those new to HIV care that aren't fellows. And I want to welcome you all for being here. It's a very exciting, and for those of us who are getting a little long in the tooth, exciting to see the next generation of people committed to this practice. Next slide. So also very exciting this year is that if you look at here a breakdown of the 487 participants, you can see that a majority are physicians, nurse practitioners, and physician's assistants, which is sort of the primary target audience, as well as registered nurses and pharmacists. And most people are taking care of a significant number of people with HIV. Exciting for me this year is that almost 40% of people this year have never attended a Ryan White clinical conference before. So it means we really are reaching some new and different people. Very, very exciting. Next slide. And we look at where we're from. It's all over. The size of the letters indicate the greater number of people attending, and you can see we have people from all over the United States. For me in particular is we have lots of people from the South, which is once again a place where we need to have more HIV expertise. So very excited to see that as well. Next slide. And the IAS-USA is accredited to provide continuing medical education here, 17 hours of credit, and you should only declare credit for those sessions which you attend. Next slide. Lots of other ways of getting credits outside of CME. Please look at these here. And instructions for claiming credit are on the website, so I encourage you to go there to claim credits. We try to make credits in many different ways as we can to help you meet your continuing education requirements. Next slide. So this conference is funded by the Health Resources and Services Administration in a grant to the NCRC of the AETC. There is a networking reception tonight, which I found out about yesterday, supported by IAS-USA without any government or industry sponsorship. So you'll hear more about that later on. Next slide. So important plug here in the Part C and D program in Ryan White. We have the director, Captain Mofidi. Where are you? There you go. Captain Mofidi, standing right here, is the director of the Part C and D program. And we are looking for more clinical consultants. When people come out and do site visits at your site, You hope that the clinicians that are looking at your charts and talking to you about what you can do or do differently, how well you're doing, have great updated information on HIV. We try to always accomplish that ourselves, but we need more clinical consultants. So please consider becoming a clinical consultant, where you'd have the option of doing 2 to 3 day site visits to Part C or D programs or combined programs, and assessing how well they're doing in the variety of topics listed here. Next slide. So there are several requirements. You'll see this slide coming up during the morning as things are rotating through, but people need a 5 years of experience in outpatient HIV care. They needed to have at least 15 hours of CME in the last year. So we really want to make sure that people are up to date and active in HIV who are doing these consultations. Next slide. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mike.
Thank you. It's great to be back. My first comment, if you go back, we're not going to go back to it, but that word slide, the word diagram we saw, what I noticed most was that Alabama was about 3 times the size of Michigan, which I think is an omen for New Year's Day. Just saying, place your bets early and often. All right. So this meeting is sponsored, in addition to HRSA, by the IAS-USA. IAS-USA, I'm currently serving as chair of the board of directors for that organization that's been around since the early 90s. Its mission is to provide high-quality medical education to people providing care for folks with HIV, but other viral diseases, and we'll see other viral diseases throughout this conference, as well as HIV. The ATEC programs, I think you're very familiar with, HRSA sponsored. There are 8 regional, 8 AETCs, 2 national, the National HIV Curriculum, and the Residency Pathway Program. So this has been doing great work since the beginning of the Ryan White authorization back in the early 90s as well. Whoops, go back one. So this is a key thing. When you take together everyone who's here and the clinics that you're representing, it's about 75 to 80% of all patients in the United States being provided, having care for HIV is represented in this room, believe it or not. What that means is that since there's only about 500 of us here, not everybody from your clinic is available. So you are an ambassador, you're an emissary, and when you go back, you're strongly encouraged to carry with you messages from this meeting. So talks that you thought were particularly insightful, things you learned, there's going to be slides made available to you so you can have in-services at your respective clinics and institutions, and that slide guide will be available very soon after the meeting ends. So be on the lookout for an email addressing that. But this, to me, is one of the best parts of this meeting and one of the legacies of you attending. Now, we had a test that most of you took, at least half. I feel like I'm my PChem professor at Tulane, I took PChem, it was my senior year, and I'd already been accepted to medical school, but I had to pass PChem, and I got a 18 out of 100 on the first test. And that was the second highest grade. So the good news here is that even though 28% hit the whatever it is, 70% mark for passing, don't feel bad because the questions were designed about stuff that's brand new. It's not like testing for HIV 101. These are the precise topics that we're going to be covering at the meeting. And so I fully expect that every one of you will be above 70% and probably in the 90s. And the speakers are kind of prone to say, you see this point? That's very important. That's on the test. So if you can't get it right, then we'll have other types of remedial education. So we have this thing called Slido that we do the real world stuff. So first off, you might notice on the back of your badge, there's the ability to get into the internet here. It's free. But once you get on the internet, you can use your phone or your tablet or your computer to participate in the polling that happens. And those of you who've been to these types of courses before know that you can just go. So you can take the QR code right now and go to slido.com, enter hashtag 6828734 to join. That'll get you right there, and this will be displayed. So give you a second to do that. I see everybody kind of, there we go, it's nice. Everyone's taking my picture. No, you're looking at the slide. Okay. And we'll move forward. So just to test this out, the URL's there and the things there too. Let's go ahead and vote based on this question, just to kind of get us used to using Slido. Music? No music. Damn. Oh. Okay. So as the slide showed us before, it's about roughly 50-50 between physicians and nurse practitioners, PAs, and about 6% pharmacists. Let's go to the next question. How many of these Ryan White clinical conferences have you attended? There's only 23, so if you put 24, it's going to freak out the machine. So don't do that. Go ahead and vote. By the time the music hits, it'll be over. Okay, let's see what we got. This is amazing to me, and this is really cool. Especially for those of you who this is your first conference, really interested as you go, and especially at the end, to give us feedback. What worked, what didn't work. The three of us up here are very excited about the agenda. We and the team from the National Resource Center as well as IAS-USA thought long and hard about what is new, and we tried to put it into the meeting so you can give us feedback on how well we did. And then one final question here. There's networking reception today of the breakout sessions. Do you plan on attending? Yes, no, not sure, I'm trying to convince you. Let's go ahead and vote. And since this is not a 101 meeting, if I were choosing music right now, since it's not 101, I would go to the Beatles and go One After 909. If you remember that song. Rooftop concert, you know, the last live concert in London ever. And they played that song. It was written in 1960, and they decided not to do anything with it. They didn't pawn it off like they did to Peter and Gordon for A World Without Love. But anyway, so this is a 909 course. Okay, so half and half, sort of. But for those of you not sure, it's going to be this evening in this hotel, 23rd floor, from 5:30 to 8. There'll be hors d'oeuvres and soft drinks. If you want alcohol, it's a cash bar, so they don't provide free alcohol, I guess because of liability or something. When we have the Q&A, which is basically following each talk, you have three options, or two options. One is to go to the microphones. There's one on this left, center, right, as you face the audience. And so you can go to the microphone and we'll call on you. If you don't like going to the microphone, just write it on a question card and people will come by and pick it up. And then those questions that are not addressed, especially on the question cards, we'll hand to the speaker, and when they go to their breakout, they'll try to address as many of them there as we can. Now, I don't see many people wearing masks, but you are not only welcome to, you're encouraged. There is a bit of a surge now in COVID and RSV and flu, so we've got to be protective of ourselves and those around us, but it's not required. Whoops. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bedimo.
Thank you, Dr. Sag. Even if I trained under Dr. Sag in Alabama, I am from Texas, and I'm not Michigan or Alabama, and everything is bigger where I come from. So what What I left to say is give you a rundown of the conference, and it's a tremendous honor and privilege for me sharing the stage with Dr. Sag, Dr. Cheever, and what we have done is assemble a cadre of the preeminent HIV physicians and scientists, and what they did is boil down the somewhat complicated HIV science, like Dr. Sachs says, some of it brand new, and translated into readily applicable guidance for the care of people with HIV or at risk for HIV. So I think you're in for a treat for the next couple of days, and feel free to give us your feedback as we go through that program, which is like this. So we have been exhausting our time in welcoming you, so we've already exceeded our welcome. And then we will go through this program. Dr. Cheever will give us the program update for Ryan White. And then later on, Dr. Baker will tell us about HIV and inflammation and aging, aging. And then we'll look at addressing challenges of cognitive dysfunction, Alzheimer's disease in people with HIV. And we have the principal investigator for the REPRIEVE study, which, unless you've been living under a rock, know that this is something that will really change the way we manage people with HIV. Dr. Greenspoon will tell us about it. And then later on, I will look at what everyone else will not be covering. I call it no more FOMO, so what things that you might have missed. And we will move on with these breakout sessions. Please remember that these are registration only, so, and they're all quite full. So if you have not registered, please do not go to the room. You can always try to talk to the nice folks outside to see if there's still room to attend one of these, but they only open to people who are registered. So we have a Ryan White listening session. We have assessment and management of cognitive impairment, results from REPRIEVE, yet again, implications. Again, like I said, boil down to the clinical practice, issues with HIV primary care, the first session, there will be others. HPV and anogenital dysplasia, those are things that we need to really be more aware of. And then again, the aging with Dr. Baker, and then issues with primary care, the third session. Dr. Sag will tease your brain about difficult cases in antiretroviral therapy. And so this is what we have today, and I will tell you tomorrow what we have for tomorrow. So again, pre-registration is required. These are highly interactive sessions, and participation is encouraged. Bring any cases or questions you wish to discuss during the sessions, and expect speakers to call on you to contribute to the discussions. And then breakout sessions are not recorded, so your voice will not live in infamy. And so what we want to emphasize is that though the preset questions were set to challenge you on new things, so if you don't pass the post-test, I will never be invited to this conference again, so please do.